Hey everyone, welcome to the ABM Voice podcast. This is your host Arun Gopalaswamy. Today I speak to Pooja Sharma, the marketing specialist at Crucial, a global credit rating company. Pooja is an experienced and certified ABM marketer. Pooja, welcome to the show, and I'm very happy to have you here and do this chat with you.
Thank you so much, Arun. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Pooja, just give us a sense of your marketing experience. It's almost a decade, right? So you've worked in different sort of companies. Give a sense of like how the experience has been on your overall journey.
Yeah, it's been a decade doing marketing, and the journey has been fantastic, and especially because I have worked in different industries. So, getting a flavor of different industry, how technology works, how telecom works, how BFSI or fintech work, and startup to assess. It's been a absolute journey, but one thing common has been my journey is ABM. So that has been
Mm,
to and been there, and I'm quite rejoicing and loving how ABM works and what ABM does. Because as a market IT, that's how I think, and that's how when
mm,
I'm doing marketing strategy, that's the only way my brain functions of what I can give an account or more specific and more targeted. So that's been the journey where ABM has been constant. The companies and industries have changed. That's the part there.
awesome. No, I think that's the experience I wanted to tap into and help our audience do better ABM, right? You talked about different experiences in different industries, right? So what are the like is are there any aspects which are applicable in one industry and not the other? It could be audience, it could be messaging, it could be content. What does what is the unifying thing and what is that thing which is very different from each of these industries that you mentioned?
Absolutely. Every industry and every company which I've worked in is completely different. And especially the way we take ABM is completely different, where the ABM is not all three ABMs, one on one, one is to many, one is to few, are not applicable for all the industries and for all my companies. Especially the
Mm,
size of the company depends and how much a company is ready to invest. What is the output
mm,
we are expecting, right? There are companies who are investing a lot, but the output also being required to give 30x or 20x, right? And now,
mm,
is that possible from one is to ABM or one is to few? It's not mandatory that you do all three ABM together,
mhm,
discarding the investment you are ready to do or you're ready to take the challenge on. Specifically for me, whichever companies I have worked in, and ABM is not quite old. It's especially in India, it's not all the companies who are doing ABM from quite like long back. And so ABM is not something which was a base and you're building up on it. Whichever company I have
right.
worked in, we have started the base from ABM. Like it's a new thing.
Mm,
So specifically when you start ABM, you have to be quite cautious, like, should you take the risk with all three ABMs, right? Or
mm,
should you prove
mm,
like it should give which into the objective of your company and that the objective is serving to one. If the objective of the company is one is to one ABM, go ahead with one is to one. Get the ROI,
mm,
get the results out of it, and then shift to one is to two. Nowadays, because ABM
mm,
becomes the jargon of the market, every
right.
company where it might not be applicable to do all three, or every company where so much investment is not required at the start, they are going ahead without any
Mm,
prior research or without any prior theory with all three together, which
right.
in
Right.
my opinion, is not a good start because the results do take time in India. It's not a
Right. Mm,
it's not demand generation where you just get a phone call and then done. That's not the right type of
mm,
which you're doing then. So yeah, that's been
mm, mm,
different and different industries, and specifically because I've worked in mid scale to large scale and also startups. So it has been different in all three scenarios for me, and the strategy has all been different in all three scenarios, along with the
right.
search for all these three industries.
Right. Okay, excellent. Now I want to double click on that experience part on the culture side of things, right? So you've been part of conglomerates and you've been part of enterprises and also SaaS, right? So what does from the marketing culture perspective, right? So what are the some of the commonalities and what are some of the things which are very distinct and specific to each of this type of companies that you've worked? Could be decision making, it could be the kind of programs that you're allowed to run, the right, so the empowerment and then things like that.
like to click on that sales cycle. So your sales cycle is quite distinguished between to a large scale, to a mid scale, to a small scale. The sales cycle is quite distinguished. So yeah, ABM
mm,
has to be shaped and has to be have a strategy according to your sales cycle, right? If the sales
mm,
cycle is 1 year long, then your ABM program can be 1.5 to 2 years, which is possible. If your sales cycle is 1 month or 2 months, especially when it is for the SaaS company, your ABM cycle
mm,
has to be 6 months when you have to see where your progression is going. You can't just continue with a longer campaign because I have done campaigns which are 1.5 year long, whereas I have
mm,
done campaigns which are 6 months long, right? Now,
mm,
1.5 year and 6 months long, where do you put a red flag? Where do you start looking it into that is your strategy correct or is the account correct or is the objective correct? That's something
right,
fine between sales and the large scale companies, right? And the
mm,
scale companies where you have to see the sales cycle this side, put a red flag, like after 1.5 months and making says, I will put a red flag. That is not worth it. Whereas in large scale,
mm,
a red flag is after 6 months because within 6 months you
mm,
have any objective or you
mm,
have analytics to look at. And the analytics won't be correct. Because of the
mm,
million deal which takes a longer time. If the sales has been working on the account, we have like 30, 40 sales people, going around it, and still they have not closed it. It will take a longer time. So the
mm,
it takes decision making and your sales strategy, your entire campaign plan for each of these SaaS, mid-scale to high-tech industries to your, it all differs. And especially when you
correct,
the culture is quite different. The objective is quite different. The objective
mm,
what needs is like your is the engagement mode, is your awareness there, right?
mm,
Where they want the awareness and engagement to be there. Whereas in your mid scale, obviously because of the size of the deal, where they want whether are you taking to a decision making, are you taking it to the bottom of the funnel,
mm,
and that's where I said the EBM strategy changes. Whether you want
mm,
objective awareness and consideration, or you want the objective of decision making where you want to
correct,
bottom of the funnel or you want to go mid of the funnel also is fine. And mid of the funnel is fine if you have already.
mm, mm, understand. In your current organization and in the role, right? So you are embarking on an ABM program, and you've been working on this for months, right? And as I understand, it's a very strategic program. There is a top level sort of sponsorship, and then there is visibility, right? And over this last month, right? So what are you exactly trying to achieve, right? So are you trying to put together a just a plan program, like how deep, and then what is the kind of activities that goes on for months, right? So the reason I'm asking this question is some of the smaller companies, right, startups, they wanted to start ABM in weeks, right? That is like 1 2 weeks, right? And in your case, if you are working on a planning aspect for 6 months, there is a lot of work that's happening. What is the thought process that happens there that the others are not doing, maybe?
Right. And that's what even when I have my coffee conversation with people, I think not kickstart ABM. It's account based marketing, right? To start
Mm,
account based marketing, you're supposed to know your account, that's your company. So from past 6 months, the journey from where I have joined, I started to understand what the business, present structure of business is. What are their objectives? What are their targets, right? How do they function? Because it's not that overnight. ABM is not about only marketing team. We have to, that's the basic. It is not only about marketing team. You have to have a sense of your cross-functional team, of your sales team, of your product team, of your content writing team, right? And if you have a strategy
mm,
team, you have to have a sense of what a strategy team is doing. Basically,
mm,
what is happening is because ABM is a jargon. Again, only the marketing team takes the decision, whether it's not need to have
correct.
buy-in from all the stakeholders of the company, all your parallel teams, because somewhere or the other they play the role. If you get a lead and you pass it to them and they do not know the value of the lead, they do not know from where the lead is coming, they do not know the journey of the lead, they do not know how much
Mm,
efforts you have got into them, you have put into the lead, that just goes to the way.
mm,
So my 6 month journey
mm,
has been understanding each team, understanding what each
mm,
does, understanding what is the objective of the team, what will it take
mm,
if I start ABM to shift their mindset? Because it's
correct.
totally different. You have to shift the mindset of sales, you have to shift the mindset of product, you have to shift the mindset of your even the board members, right? It's not easy.
mm, mm,
What results are going
mm,
to get? It's not the demand.
mm, mm,
There. So my 6 month research has been, is ABM a good fit for the my company? A
mm, mm,
good fit. What type of ABM is a good fit? B, see it is that if what type of ABM is fit, what will it take me to change the mindset of different people, and how can I explain to them? And hence, I'm
mm,
to multiple people and trying to understand what is their mindset with ABM, right? In the company,
mm,
from the same industry, I have been having this a lot of proper conversations of where people's mindset are. I'm not trying to influence them, I'm just trying to grasp them so that I know how
right,
to make people in my company understand the cross-functional team, what Indian takes, what it will give them, and
mm,
how to treat it.
right,
Right. The treatment is the base of ABM, right? If you're doing an account
mm,
based meeting, you're getting an engagement into an account or into in
mm,
contact. How does the next
mm,
team? That's the sales pre
mm,
the telecalling team. But much before
right,
that, your strategy team, your product team, your content marketing team, how do they start having a mindset change of how to start making the content, how to start making the strategy? What should the strategy include? You're having a resource
mm,
count, you're having your tool count, you're having a X dollar of investment done. What are you expecting it and how much run? So that
mm,
strategy has taken me a 6 months long run to get it created
mm,
to the core of it, right?
mm,
Now I
mm,
know that these XYZ teams have these objectives. This is how I can change
right,
my mindset. This is what the work
mm,
should be done. And this is the
right,
amount of investment I need. And I can give a wide on
right,
output. Because it's not easy
got it,
to be, you said 2 weeks. I mean, then it would be a marketing decision. It has to be
right,
a parallel decision. It has to be all teams. Educate the team. Let the team come on board. Then start the process. Because if you start
mm,
and you do not have your product team in line, will you be able to
mm,
make industry bundling? You won't be able to make
mm,
industry bundling. The product
mm,
remains the same,
mm,
but the functions, but the functionality, those changes for each industry.
right,
For one industry,
mm,
security is high concern. For another industry, user experience is high concern. So what
got it,
is your product team on board to give you that bundle according to industry?
mm,
Is your design
mm,
team on board to give you industry specific design? Because it can't,
mm,
without educating, they can't have a certain shift, right? Because they have been doing it for years. Is your business
right,
team on board to take your leads or your engaged contacts and speak the language, same language which you have done all the efforts in, speak the same language
mm,
with it.
right,
So
right.
that but
And when you, right, please go ahead.
so that's the core of my research where I start with the
Right,
basic and then build up on it.
right, okay. And how does this buy-in look like? So how do you know that it has been brought in or bought in, right? And are you like doing workshops and bringing all of these teams together and then educating what ABM is, or are you talking about benefits, right? So there is a phase I understand that you're trying to understand the business, how do these teams work, then you need to sort of convert that into a sort of a working model, right? So talk us through that experience in terms of now you going and introducing ABM and then saying, okay, this is how we're going to do. Do you see excitement? Do you see resistance? Anything that you wanted to change? Typically, there is a resistance, right? So how do you overcome?
So basically, I'm doing ABM for my internal team. I'm
Hmm.
sending it
Okay.
by doing account based
Hmm.
to my actually contact based marketing to my internal
Hmm.
stakeholders. And
Hmm.
as a marketer, you can't sell your ideas and market your
Hmm.
ideas to contact based marketing, then you have to rethink about the entire thing. So
Hmm. Hmm.
like when we are targeting an account as a, as a marketer, we know what the account wants. We see what
Hmm.
the account wants, so that I'm applying exactly the same thing to my internal stakeholder. And in contact based
Hmm.
marketing, where I know what each contact wants, what is their
Hmm.
value, what is fitting, what type of output can I show them that they'll be convinced, right? And they don't,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
benefit, obviously they won't buy in because it's a lot of work. ABM is a lot of work. It's not
Hmm.
just a start of it. It's a lot of brain work actually more than the part of it.
Correct.
So
Right.
I'm doing
Right.
exactly what their KRA needs are, what
Hmm.
output we will be
Hmm.
happy with. So I'm showcasing
Hmm.
IBM's benefit for each contact and within my company
Hmm.
with uh,
Hmm.
same contact-based marketing approach. So I'm utilizing
Hmm.
No, ABM,
mm,
spoke us
mm.
because
I think that's very interesting. I don't think I've heard anybody saying that I'm actually doing ABM to sort of get buy-in from my team. And if you think of it, and I think that's what you're doing. Excellent. Uh, so this, like the kind of company and the setup you are in, you have that luxury to 2 months of research, right? Convincing and all of that. If you're a smaller startup, right, so they don't have months, right? So they have weeks, and they could have a product where AVM can be applicable, right? For such companies, right? So how should they approach their AVM? How do they embark on AVM, right? So what are the groundwork that they can do, but maybe not like do like an elaborate exercise like what you've been doing,
yeah,
and also figure out like what are the readiness, and if there is a checklist that should come up with, or is there one that they can basically use and then say, okay, this is what I can do.
yeah, and that's a good question, Arun. And other thing is that in the company smaller size, the convincing of teams also is smaller, right? So
Hmm,
playing around with less
hmm,
smaller of amount. You're playing with the smaller deals every team cycle. You're playing with smaller
right.
team structure. So then you research
Hmm,
automatically get a smaller research done, right? So then
hmm,
when automatic
hmm,
happens, yes, checklists at least have the basic checklist done, right? Because you're smaller,
right.
easier to get all of them into one room, one time, educate all of them together regarding what AB
Hmm,
is, right? And
hmm,
have a
hmm,
good session of boss, what's your requirement? Each in a bigger organization, you have to do it with individual team because teams are bigger, right? If it's
right.
20,
Hmm,
25% team, responsible in a smaller setting, get
hmm,
them in a room.
hmm,
I wanted to
hmm,
them your ideas, what are their output, what are their expectations, and take the ABM
hmm,
campaign for those output at the start, right? ABM,
hmm,
oh,
hmm, hmm,
there are different ways where ABM's output can be used, whether it's engagement,
right.
whether it's relationship building, whether it's awareness. There are different types. See the top three
Hmm,
requirements of all the teams in your team. Suppose if your product team,
hmm,
I want people to be aware about my product features, right? Where
hmm,
sales
hmm,
as boss sales team always be a sales team say that I want leads, I want to sell it, right? And when
right.
whether a management might have that I want my company to be more than the product, right? Once I have
Correct.
people if you know about me. So then these three becomes your core to go with. These are our three objectives. And then you can
Hmm,
building if this objective is there, what type of ABM fits in? Whether it's
right.
one is too few, one is too many. For a startup, and
Hmm,
when you said it's a new product, so then it would be 1 to 2 because if you have a good current customer list, you can retarget them for cross sell a part of it, and then you have one is too many,
hmm,
right? Then you
hmm,
down to
hmm,
type of APM. Now you have touched down to two type of APM, right?
hmm,
What's your product cost? What is your average
hmm.
price? Now you know your average being said, do a back calculation of what is the budget of he's giving you.
Cool. I think that this helps. So when you're doing longer programs, and you said you had ABM programs run for 1.5 years, you said, right? So how difficult is to sustain the alignment, and then what are the things that you do to make sure that you're actually working together in tandem, I think, with the end goal and things like that, right? As time passes, right? So the initial excitement sort of fades away, and then, and as a leader or somebody who's anchoring the program, right? So how do you sort of keep people together, flock together, motivate, and uh, go to that end state of, let's say, the campaign becoming a winning one?
Right. So, when people, and I get this question a lot of times, how do you make them believe in your ABM? How do you make them believe in what you're doing? The
Right.
the second part, which makes any ABM program successful, is the transparency and is the reporting. Your reporting
Hmm.
has to speak top notch and is to be along with the objective, right?
Hmm.
If you have an objective, your objective, the three, if there are three teams with three different objectives, your report, which goes out to them bi-weekly or monthly. I prefer a bi-weekly reporting always, small bi-weekly
Hmm.
reporting between monthly reporting. They are aware of the progress. They are aware of the journey. Keep that transparent.
Hmm.
The win of ABM is only by reporting, right? Because then
Hmm. Hmm.
then the teams are aware, the teams are in line, they know there's a problem,
mm,
right?
mm,
1.5 year
mm,
program, suppose I'm targeting CEO, right? And I tell my content or product marketing team, boss, the CEO has shown interest in 5 to 10 of your products, and I'm making them engage with your, now they have engaged with top level tofu content 3 times, tofu bottom of the, mid of the funnel, mofu content 4 times, and bottom of the, they are happy with the journey. They know that they're
mm,
taking in, they're
mm,
grasping the information what they're creating. If I tell a salesperson, boss, you have one meeting 2 weeks later, but last week your person has read XYZ thing. He's happy
mm,
reporting. So
mm, mm,
reporting is the base in ABM to make your stakeholders stickiness, even the internal stakeholders, to keep the excitement
mm,
on, to keep the stickiness on, to keep you always this information is both the side. You can't do ABM alone, as I said from first. You need cross-functional teams. You need your depend.
right.
It's a teamwork, right? So
Mm,
once you have
mm,
conversations within once in a month,
mm,
because this is their top account, these are the journey which your customer has taken. These are the contacts in your account which have shown interest. This is the journey of each of the contact. Then they know things are moving,
mm,
right?
mm,
The
mm,
things are not moving, they allow them like, right, we just go and meet the ones.
mm,
It should we just
mm,
have a call because these are top clients. These are your top 10 clients. You might be getting your, most of the time revenue 20-30% from these top clients, which you can
right.
measure,
Okay.
right? So
Mm,
if
mm,
there's a lot of intent, your internal intent, external intent, your event intent, your campaign intent, digital intent, external intent,
mm,
like one-on-one intent, the reporting has to speak all of it. You can't say that I'm
mm,
marketing reporting, so I will be having
mm,
digital. It has to have external. It has to have your sales touch point also. It has to have a pre-sales
mm,
touch point. But then the stories,
mm,
and that shows the teamwork, and then builds the
mm,
business.
mm. Got it. Yeah. Uh, Again, in the same context, right? When you have this 1.5 years of deal cycle, right, and then you're reporting every, let's say, every 2 weeks, there are going to be periods where nothing is happening, right? So, right, there could be a spike, and then there is a movement, and then there is a lull, right? So it's always a swing, right? So, uh, what are you reporting on those times,
And
right? So where no action is taken place, for example, right?
yeah, and that's the transparency which is to be maintained. And that's where your
Mm,
ABX education to your stakeholders coming point, right?
mm,
There is no action being taken. We clearly say the boss, there is no being action. Let's try
mm,
with the subject. Have you heard, from your client, or is
mm,
there a board meeting in your client's thing? Or is there, some shift happening from your on ground conversation from the sales team? And they're like, oh yeah, there's
mm,
board meeting, so they like, don't bother for these 2 weeks, they won't interact. Okay, if there is no
right.
that, oh, they attended our event last week itself, right? So it will
Mm,
be
mm,
for them. When many a times we have to
mm,
make your campaign go slow, right?
mm,
If they have
mm,
attended your round table, or if they have attended your tech session last week, obviously,
mm,
what if you continue with it, right? Obviously, I understand
right.
the point. You can't put a stop to it, but then
Mm,
have your content, which is might be a fun content, might be not a content
mm,
product. You don't always have to say.
mm,
Now, if you
mm, mm,
and if you have that, you have a tech session last week. Next week can't be
mm,
followed up saying that take more information. It can be a fun session.
mm,
It can be a fun fact
cool.
industry. It can just be
Mm,
something nothing to do with your company, something nothing to do with your with your company or with your product. It has to be a
mm,
light conversation. It has to be a fun fact, or it can be a
mm,
trending news, right? Because
mm,
was
mm,
important. That brand recollection is
mm,
important. That brand not slipping from the end is important. Right? No one.
mm,
Now we have arrived where we have an attention span of 3 seconds. Once upon a time, it was
right.
25 seconds. It has reduced
Mm,
down to 3 seconds. And we know
mm,
of digital era we are stating what is it is too much of information.
right.
And so ABM
Mm,
on deciding that. And when you're deciding 1.5 year campaign, these are the
mm,
expenses which have to be kept in thing. You can't keep telling yourself. You can't keep selling.
mm, mm,
It has to be it
okay.
connects the football. If you know your contact and well enough, and that's you're supposed to know. If the contact like
Mm,
football, put a concept about the football.
mm,
You
mm. Makes sense. Makes
may
sense.
give.
And this is across the teams, right? So if you're leading a program, right? So how are you proving ROI, right? So again, for large, long programs, right, it's going to take time for you to actually do the conversion. But in the intermediate time, right, so both for short as well as long programs, what are some ways that you obviously this bi-weekly report or fortnightly reporting is something that's going to give them the clarity in terms of how the deal is progressing, how the program is progressing and things like that. But like specifically, how do you, what are the steps that you do to prove ROI, right? So these are high investment programs, right? Your leadership teams are going and then are coming to you and then asking like, okay, where is the return for the investments that you've already made, right? So how do you tackle that question?
Right. So, that really then always has been, or bottom of the funnel, because if your ABM, you start or your obviously it takes 6 months to warm up. After 6 months, if you are warmed up, there always be results of knowing in terms of dollar, right? Dollar value is one aspect of it, but then there is account score, context score, which proves that things are moving in the right direction before you come.
Mm,
There's account score, there's context score. There have been times where sales have gone to the meetings and the customers, your content has to be strong, your ads have to be strong, your material has to be strong, your events have to be strong enough, where the customers have come back and said, boss, that material which your marketing things came was very right?
mm,
Those are your
mm,
success metrics. Those are your scoring
mm,
models you have to put in place. Where
mm,
then where it's teamwork, where sales has to be transparent, come and tell you what's this way. And they tell. I'll tell you, I have
mm,
been I do know sales thing, with sales and marketing never go hand in hand, right? But when
correct. Mm,
you see results, they do comment it. There are many people who come back
mm,
and they don't tell. It's not that. If they see the result,
mm.
they comment it because they want that to be replicated for other accounts, right?
Right, right.
It's
Okay.
no objective
Mm,
in it. The objective is because not
mm.
because to praise you more, but because they want that work to be done in other accounts. So I
That's right.
really do account scoring, contact scoring with the dollar value. Obviously, there would be deals from 6 months back which would be closing and will come near the bottom of the funnel.
Mm,
The bottom of the
mm,
funnel, when you account scoring and contact scoring, there are key measurements. Obviously, with
mm,
the part where the customer themselves, like we said, that's the biggest victory for India. And that the management
mm,
education has to be given to the management too. And where I know that each management I work with, they understand the value of it. They understand when a
right.
customer comes in saying that, was your content was very good enough. Like
Mm,
if you're gone and you have given a personalized newsletter only for their account, only for their
mm,
investment, that just shows how it has been, right?
mm, mm,
That's
mm.
one part where I see that, it is good enough where the ABM results I counter. So that's how I tell you the account scoring and context scoring.
Very interesting. You talked about this feedback that you receive from sales, right? So that loop, is that a process or it's just that whenever they get to meet, they come and then say, okay, so I've had this discussion. So what I'm saying, trying to understand is it part of the plan that you regularly collect this, right? Okay, these are the meetings that I've done over this last 2 weeks, and this is the feedback that I've got, and this is how they think the work that your team is doing, right? Specifically marketing, when you look at it internally, that it's influencing. You talked about a reference to that content piece that somebody said that it was useful, right? So is this processified or it just like left it to just randomized?
No, it's a process driven. It's a process driven. So when you're making this campaign plans, it has to be detailed of when you're sending this reporting, when you're taking feedback from sales. Okay, that has to be
Mm,
documented for each campaign plan, each account plan. It has to be documented and shared across with the sales, agreed with sales, agreed with the product marketing.
mm,
First, these are your feedback which we will get. So mostly we get feedback
mm.
with sales, pre-sales, right? And the events team, if there are companies which have events team in parallel where they recognize the
Right,
logo and come, right? Might be that you did a campaign,
right.
boss, if you go on the booth, collect this, this has been for you. This has been made for you.
Mm,
And then
mm,
team design team have to be product marketing team, contact marketing team, and the ABM team have to be on the receiver side where we receive the feedback and act upon it. There is the giving and the
mm.
receiving. And it is very
Correct.
simple, but obviously giving will always be sales, pre-sales, events who see them face to face. So that's the process.
That's right.
There is a
Mm,
structure created who is giving the feedback, who is receiving the feedback, how often we act upon it, right? That has been all
mm,
structured, right? After an event,
mm.
you do not go back and ask to the sales that what was the feedback of your customers, then you're at fault. The ABM team is at fault.
Correct.
That feedback is
Mm,
necessary. Boss
mm,
send them the email that their specific personalized book is kept. Did you communicate the same?
mm,
They come and collect it, right? Or
mm,
might
mm,
send
mm.
a small goodie if they are, plant lovers, or you just kept a football sign for them, right? And you just kept the football sign for them. Did they collect the football, right?
Mm,
So these are
mm,
all things which matter. I believe
mm,
in
mm,
marketing being more than the product, it's psychology. Play with the,
mm.
like, you have to go to the psychological level of your customers, and you have to collect the
That's right.
feedback. Because to understand
Right.
someone likes copying a football is not easy for the marketing team. And I get it because I've
Mm,
done those researches. Now,
mm,
if you do
mm,
not ask, then did that work? You won't know that,
mm,
oh, do you have to repeat
mm.
it or you don't have to repeat it, because it takes us
Right.
then us to do that research.
Mm, mm. It's very important that feedback loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you doing it systemically in the sense, right? So are they capturing in CRMs and then you look up and then get that, or are they typically face-to-face meetings where this is like orally told you captured, right? How does that work?
So for one-on-one ABM, it has to be CRM captured, because these are the
Mm,
learner journey. Account or team can change, account person can change, marketing team can change, everything can change. So for one-to-one, wherein it
mm,
has to be documented in detail in the CRO. So down the years, whoever comes will have a look at it. Whereas one is to few,
mm,
understand it's difficult to measure every piece of it, but it has to be measured in the CRM so that tomorrow you know what campaigns work. You
right.
do the same mistake,
Mm,
especially where
mm, mm,
some with ABM, you have to do predictive analysis, you have to do competitive analysis. You have to, when you're doing this analysis, these pointers come in picture. When you are
mm,
doing a predictive analysis, how do you do predictive analysis? Seeing what has happened in past, you can predict whether it will have the same. If there are five companies having the same sort of journey, then you can predict
mm.
that it's going to be the same for the industry, right? Now, if you
Right. Right.
capture this detail, then you would not know. Like, I just give an
Mm,
example. Events are not cheap, right? If you know that five of your top one-on-one accounts came for that one particular event, you know that event is a good investment. When
mm,
50 came and 50 was small scale of your wing, then you have to see, I mean, is that a correct ROI you're getting? And this will be
mm,
possible only if you have documented what you have spoken to your salesperson. It will be possible if
mm,
you document what you have spoken to pre-sales, right? And it
mm,
to have
mm,
account at the end of the year, ranked for top account, you have to have account history pulled up by marketing team. Then this was your
mm,
journey, especially for top 10 accounts, top 5 accounts. Now, and then
mm,
what I said in the starting of the this podcast, you have to see what type of ABM is fitting, right? You can't
mm,
so much detail if the ticket size is like, 10,000 or 20,000. If it's into million,
mm,
you have to have the documentation of end of MPR where you dodge down the journey of your account. This is what the journey happened, this is what happened, this is the right?
mm, mm,
Depends on the type of ABM. One is too many,
mm,
you can't have it detailed. I totally agree. But other, you have to have the integration in such way that at least your digital footprints are captured in your CRM. You have to have
mm.
process in a place with maximum touch points. At bare minimum, what you can do, the touch points are captured in your CRM.
Right.
Most to it,
Right.
one is to few
Eh,
pointers, one is to one
right.
detailed pointers.
Right. And the feedback, who's putting it in CRM? Is it the marketing team going and extracting through conversations, or you're letting the sales team to put together, let's say, based on a template or something like that on CRM, whichever CRM they use?
So it both ways, right? And if the sales teams, one is to few and one is to many salespeople want.
Correct.
One is meaning no salesperson. And that's
Mm, mm,
I do not want to build up any word because then one is to many, no one. One is to one. What happens in where sales see the result, they
mm.
start doing it.
Putting it. Okay. Okay.
Then go and see whatever is missing, you added in it.
Mm,
But
mm,
I, where sales sees that, there ain't been results out of it, we start putting it again, as I said, because they wanted to duplicate for other accounts. Most of these
right.
companies where large accounts are with one salesperson, he will have more two to three like accounts to him.
Mm,
When you
mm,
start the journey themselves because it helps them. If they see
mm,
the
mm.
input, they start putting it themselves. Until they don't
Got it.
see the input, it will have. If you're starting ABM Neo, it has to be the marketing
Mm,
team to fix it because at the end of
mm.
the day, after 6 months, you can prove to this that these are the pointers which help. So it will be great if you
Got it.
start putting these pointers.
Makes perfect sense. Uh, just switching gears. So if you're a company which is getting started with ABM, so you have some kind of a demand gen program that's going on, right? Maybe a couple of million of revenue, right? So they have product that fits into your ABM use case, for example, right? How do you introduce what are some of the things where you introduce and then sort of dovetail your ABM program into demand gen and then marry this and make the whole thing a process?
Right.
How would you approach it?
When you start with ABM, do not stop it ever. Like, just start and stop demand gen. That will just backslash. Let it go in parallel for 3 months, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Take for one to many, take the industry. Take your top three industry account. Take your top
mm,
three products which are selling, if it is industry or product or region, right? Start putting those buckets of clusters, what we call in AVM language. Start taking those clusters to one is to many,
mm,
right? So when you start taking these clusters, what will happen is your results will drive automatically. They'll be more result driven because your content is mirroring the industry, it's mirroring the product. So that metrics will obviously have more results,
mm,
right? So it has to be gradually done, right?
mm,
But then I would
mm,
say start when one was too many because
mm,
that approach 1:1 takes a lot of content strategy, a lot of part of it, and demand
mm.
handling. So you can't do 1:1 for many accounts in parallel, right? It has to be done for
Right.
few accounts, your top accounts, because the investment also is likely a very large. One is to
Mm,
few also it will take a little bit of more time. If you want one is to many is a shorter cycle for you to execute. So start
mm,
the clusters by product, clusters by industry. Start marrying
mm,
them one is to many. After you start
mm,
putting them in that ABM or language, what happens?
mm,
You start seeing the result.
mm. So what is the one to many funnel or a bucket, right? Is that going to feed into your one to few or the conversion
Yeah.
is just like optimized for the many?
Yes, the pyramid rises always. The
Mm,
pyramid will always go one is to few. At the end of the day, it will go into one. One is to many will go is to one is to few. One is to few.
mm,
It depends. One is to few to go to one is to one. It depends. It
mm.
depends on the type
Right.
of the ROI the account will give because no one will be able to make that type of investment. Isn't
Mm,
but worthy to go into one is to one. So one is to many.
mm,
Surely go one is to few, right? Because that's
mm,
the type of future we're looking at. One is to few to one is
mm,
to one depends on the type of account manager, depends on the type of deal size which you're looking at, and whether it's worth
mm,
putting so much investment. So that's the type
mm,
the pyramid which structure which I have been worked upon, and I guess that has worked because if you take, I'll give a small example. So if you take one into few 10 accounts, right, and put in a one to one, you're putting entire
mm,
one resource behind those 10 accounts. But in the end of
mm,
you get only $20,000 deal. Is it even worth it?
mm.
It is not worth,
Correct.
right? Because
Mm,
instead of putting
mm,
that one resource into those 10 accounts, you can have put that one resource into one account, which is giving you a
mm,
$1 deal, right?
mm,
So the
mm.
yes, one is to many to one is to few is not always there. One is to few to one is to one is
It
quite
depends. Okay. So what changes when an account that was in the one to many bucket goes to one to few, right? So there is obviously like a lot more focus, but are you activating more channels? There could be like a lot more personalized content and all of that. Like what else goes through when an account progresses from the one to many to one to few bucket?
touch points increases. So one is to few, the content changes. The one is to few to one
Mm,
is to many to one is to one. The in all
mm-hmm.
three, your touch points have to gradually increase, right? Your touch point has to
Okay.
increase.
Mm,
Your touch point has to go more personalized, right? And
mm,
the
mm,
content has to go more personalized. The content has to have more depth. When I say more,
mm,
if you're selling, suppose if you're even selling ABM, right? First, when you're saying what is ABM, what will ABM benefit you, right? Now, what will ABM benefit at technology industry? What has been the past? What has been the present? What will be the future? That is the type of content that people are looking at, right? And so that's
mm,
to be
mm,
industry specific. Now, when you are using 5 channels, right, now it has gone to 1:few to less channels. But those many channels is that you have to increase that 5 channel to 10 channels. Now, when I
mm, mm,
technology example, so you have to see what type of website or technology people visit, what are the type of events they go, what type of newspaper they read. So you have to start adding and targeting them according to their perspective, according to where their touch point is higher, right?
mm,
So I have to
mm, mm,
which I love doing in 1:few. You have to see how that industry is target
mm.
their customers,
Okay.
right? When you know
Mm,
this is the colors, this is the theme, this is the language they're using for their customer, then you very well know
mm,
they are used to looking at it. They know that language,
mm,
right?
mm,
That research has to be done. A
mm,
B2C company is very,
mm,
if you see white vibrant, very fast, quite modernized, on point.
mm,
They are like, for them, when you're thinking a campaign, has to be
mm,
a campaign. It has to be according to today's century. Whereas when you're
mm,
looking for a BFSI, what is the trend you're seeing? Take 15, 20 BFSI accounts, see how they're advertising. See what are the
mm.
because we have only 3 seconds spam time on digital footprints, right?
Correct. Mm, mm,
What
mm,
they see their accounts, see take the 10, 15 BFSI and B2C, see where their
mm,
customers have visited in last 1 year. See what
mm,
type of people
mm,
they are getting, see what type of events they're going to, or see
mm,
what
mm,
type of people they're meeting. Something
mm.
of personalization is possible into 1:few, which is not possible into 1:many, right? Because of
Correct. Mm,
no
mm.
company would invest in
Obviously.
resources and
Mm,
part of research time. So these things
mm,
change from 1:few to 1:many. 1:few also you need industry specific messaging, but at what level is
mm,
industry specific messaging? What is the type of
mm,
stuff
mm,
wanted to get to that one industry specific messaging? It might be top level,
mm,
right? But 1:few, you
mm,
have to go on into a little bit depth. And that
mm, mm.
automatically happen because 1:1, you might have few accounts which are there from these industries. So if you have done your
Right.
to one account or and research very well, then one
Mm,
you don't have to put extra efforts. That research
mm, mm.
industry 1:few. It can
Correct. Okay. Right. So I just wanted to stick to that progression. So the one to many to one to few progression, right? Is it also aligned to the deal progression or the awareness from the tofu to mofu? That determines, okay, so when the a particular account reaches the mid funnel, then I put them into a one to few bucket and then progress them. Is that how you're thinking? Is there a dependency connection at all?
Yes. So it has to be from, it can't be on the awareness side where you put, right? If they
Hmm.
have passed your awareness stage in 1:few and they have reached your,